Hello, this is Tate with Black Bear Outdoors, blackbearoutdoors.net. Today we're continuing on in our preparedness videos talking about seed planting and what to kind of start you out to actually start from seeds. And we actually recommend that in your 72-hour kits and your year's supply of food that you do have a freeze-dried type seed pack, something that's been stored properly and is going to be able to last for several years in your 72-hour kit year's supply. Now the first thing we're going to want to talk about is good dirt, and hopefully you've already got some in your house, but one that I've really started to like right now is the Roots Organic brand. It has cocoa in it, which is a renewable resource. Lots of great types of meals and all kinds of things in there, bone meal and feather meal and all this other stuff that's going to be great nutrients for them. So it's already basically has a natural fertilizer inside. I like to add a little bit of the Happy Frog tomato and vegetable type stuff, which is again has bat guano in it and feather meal and kelp, all this kind of stuff. It has a really high nitrogen rate, which is great for the growth of getting the roots going and to get the actual plant growing. I always like putting in a mycorrhizae, just mixing in there, and both these do have that in there, but it always helps to have a little extra hit on that. You can't really overdo mycorrhizae. Now the one thing I do really like about this soil is, if you can see here, if you move in a little closer here, we're going to talk about the soil doesn't really compact. It just sits there and is really coarse and fine, really light and fluffy, and allows the actual seeds to really be able to grow without being able to hold moisture up against it, but not being something that's actually going to compact and make it hard for the seeds to grow. We always start out in these little trays. These can be found at most of your places. We have a couple great places here in Rockland. The Green Garden store here in Rockland is a great one that we get most of our supplies from. You can get all of your little trays, and your little pots, which are great. I like this size right here instead of the little itty-bitty 6x6 packs. You just grow out of them really too fast, and you get a lot of transplant shock when you do that. I just like to put 2 or 3 in this, and then actually there I'll pull from there. So I like this size here. Finding a good seed at a good place. Spend a couple bucks on seeds. You can even order. There's a lot of great places online to look for heirloom type seeds. Seeds that are going to be the original seed. It hasn't been hybrided or any of the other things that they do to them to keep them, making something different than where they are. You'll have a little bit different, like a tomato. They may not look quite perfect, but they tend to be a lot juicier, and you can actually take your seeds if you want to propagate seeds from that plant for next year. You can only do that with an heirloom type seed. So look for heirlooms. Lots of seed places online. Just Google them, and they'd be able to help you with that. Now you don't need anything really specific. I mean, I've got like a tray here we did brownies in. That works great. It already comes with a dome already on top, which makes it great for doing this. Now, what we're going to do is we've already filled our pots, and I like to fill them all the way up to the very top because it does tend to compact a little bit. Even with good soil, it will compact a little bit. And what we'll go is we'll actually top them all off. We'll put our seeds in, and the seed itself, and this is a pea right here. What we're going to actually do with this pea is we're going to put it in the dirt 4 times the size of the seed. So we want to basically do it, that deep in the soil, about a ½ inch. And this is about 1/8 to 1/4, ½ to 5/8 of an inch, just about like that. Now this one, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to put it in there. We're going to dig it down in there, just press it down in there, push them down in there, and cover them back up again. Now, we've done that with all of our peas here. Now, some seeds are going to be quite a little bit smaller than that. Like these right here, if you look really close, we can see this is a habanero or a jalapeno seed. Now, jalapenos are something that we really want to be able to get deep down in there. just, I mean, not too deep. You want to still keep that 4 times the, that's a very small seed, so only about 1/4 of an inch is where we want to put that guy. Now, I always, if you notice there, I have several seeds there. Seeds are cheap. Go ahead and use several. You can always pick them out if you've overseeded. It's really, it kind of sucks to have one plant that doesn't grow anything at all. So it's always a good idea just to pack them down just about 1/4 of an inch, and then go ahead and pack it down the rest of the way. And you'll notice this soil really doesn't pack down too much, even if you're kind of packing it down by hand. Now, like this one here, tomato seed, again, I've got like 5 tomato seeds here. And I'm going to go ahead and just cover those guys up. And where there's a seed, just go ahead and throw it back over the top. Just real lightly packing it in and then covering it back up. Now, once we've done this, we're going to want to water it down with a half solution of an organic fertilizer liquid mix. There's a bunch out there. Pick one that works for you, something, again, high in nitrogen to promote root growth. There's a lot of additives and things you can put in there. Hit your local stores. They're going to be able to help you pick out different places will have different things that all do about the same thing. Again, the Green Garden store in Rockland is awesome. We really like that store. Mike is a great guy, and he knows a lot about this type of stuff. And he sells all the products here fairly reasonable, or a version of them. Once we've watered it in, we want to soak it down real good. And then we're actually going to put a humidity dome on top. Now, the humidity dome is actually going to lock it in. And we shouldn't really, if we use the humidity dome, we're not going to have to water until they start to sprout. Now, we leave these inside. We put them in a window that is a southern-facing window, so they get as much light as they can. I tend to, when they're seeds themselves, though, I tend to bring them into the warmest room in my house, which happens to be next to my fireplace, away from the window. Now, the reason I do that off the bat is because technically they don't need the light to sprout. Most seeds do not require light to germinate. They do need heat, though. So germinating rates above 40 degrees is about the minimum that a seed will start to germinate at. And I just take meat thermometers, shove it in there, and that will tell me what my soil is. I really like to have my soil really closer to about 70 to 75 degrees. Now, in the wintertime, the way I do that is with a heating mat. You can buy heating mats, again, the Green Garden store in Rockland has them. They cost you anywhere from about $20 to $25, mattering where you go. And they're run, I like the single tray version and just getting several of those. I have several of them for my different pots. They run about 15 watts, which is really efficient. They're just a mild heat. They'll raise the soil anywhere from about 10 to 20 degrees. One thing I do recommend is when you do that, you put it on a table that is a little thick, or as you'll see in some of my other videos, I've actually laid down a space blanket underneath all my plants, and that helps reflect not only the light back up, but also the heat back up into the plants. And that keeps them at that 75 to 85 degrees max. Now, one other thing you're going to want to look at is when we get into some of our other growing, is getting a fan that actually circulates air through here, which is really going to help. Now, once they start to sprout, we'll actually take this dome off, because as you can see, there's not a heck of a lot of room underneath here. So once they get up where they're starting to sprout pretty good, we can switch over to our bigger domes. And if you only want to buy one dome, these work just fine for the first humidity dome also. But what's really great about these guys is you're able to put that guy all the way over the top and then adjust your humidity level. And if Tyler will come in real quick, you can kind of see. There's these big doors on top and on the sides on some of them, like this particular one has side vents and top vents. What's really nice about these guys is you can adjust your humidity level just by turning it up and down. So if you get a humidity meter in there, you can actually sit there and actually turn it up and down based on how much you're going to need for this type of item. And then you get cross ventilation. Like I have fans in my system where I hook up fans and blow air through to actually keep the bugs down and everything else. The other thing I do recommend is you are going to be in a very humid environment. Some of my other videos I've shown you The little sticky traps, they're basically little fly traps that we stake down inside, and that really does help keep the bugs down, because you're going to get them whether you want to or not. I mean, there's not too much you can do about it without using some kind of a chemical that we don't want on our plants we're going to be eating out of. So keep that in mind. After they've sprouted to about, as soon as they sprout, we want to hit them with the light. We use fluorescent lighting because it's efficient, but pretty much any lighting you use, high pressure sodium, and a lot of the other more powerful lights. But for rooting purposes, if we're going to go ahead and put them outside and we're not going to continue to grow them inside, fluorescent lighting works just great. Either a T12, T8, or T5 if you've really got a great system. And we've talked a little bit about our systems that we've actually taken and ran a little bit, we run a high output T8 system where we run a cool and a hot bulb. Some people just run the cool bulb. I like the cool and hot. Seems to work really, really well. And once they've got up to where they're at the 3 or 4 inch mark, I've already cracked the dome. I'm letting air flow through every day, move the plants around, and I'm going ahead and getting my, I'm going to move them out into my mini greenhouse, which is already done. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us at Black Bear Outdoors, blackbearoutdoors.net. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.